Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Women Have Needs Too. Women have needs too. Right now, I need to take a risk. Today, we're here with Jennifer Mulligan. She's been interested in the world of commerce ever since she watched her entrepreneurial mother run a successful small business. After becoming a young mother herself in 2000, Jennifer became adept at structured days, sleepless nights, we all know about those, and continued dedication to her child and her career. She has always worked in the male-dominated industry of banking and rose to the top by being a skilled leader and strong mentor. She specializes in adding value to others by building teams and creating tomorrow's leaders in the financial industry. Jennifer has sat on numerous boards, won multiple awards for leadership, and continues to give back by volunteering for many nonprofits. A Tampa native, Jennifer has had to learn to pivot multiple times in her career, and I bet you had to do that a couple times this year, right?
Yes, I have.
And you wrote a book.
And I wrote a book. Yes, COVID hit and decided to write a book.
And the name of the book, You Are the Best Investment. And I thank you so much for being here with us today, Jennifer. I can't wait to pick your brain.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
So you pivoted in March, April this year?
It would have been March of this year that I pivoted, yes.
Okay, and tell me what happened. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so been in banking for 20 years and took some time to step back a little bit. And wrote my book, and as I was writing the journey of my book, I realized how much I had accomplished in my career at such a young age.
Yeah, because you look about 20.
Thank you. And really wanted to take a lot of the skills that I've done throughout my career versus working for someone else. I said, why don't I start to work for myself and create my own brokerage firm and my own finance company?
It was time to take a risk.
It was time to take another risk again, yes. Well,
because no matter how much background you have and how much education you have, it's taking a risk starting a company, especially during the
COVID.
times that we've had in this last year. So, I commend you for doing that, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And so you did this all while writing your book.
Yes.
And that's not an easy thing to do, because I did the same thing, and I'm still in the middle of my book.
Yeah, well, I encourage you to continue the book. It's a great
it's
journey.
about time to get back to it.
Yeah.
But You Are the Best Investment. How did you come up with the name for that?
It's the book is honest advice for women looking to make their mark in male-dominant industries. And in that, I wrap it around saying you're the best investment. So throughout life, throughout career, health and wealth comes all together. If you're continuing to invest in yourself, your education, your mind, it all pulls together. So I came up with You're the Best Investment.
So tell us a little bit about the book. What do you write about?
Yeah. Everything from how I started my career to some tips and advice for women and for men as well in regards to leadership lessons and just skills learned along the way, some how-tos as well that are in there.
What kind of how-tos? Can you think of any?
Yeah, so how to keep a positive mindset.
So what is your advice for how to keep a positive mindset?
Constantly going back to your why. What's your purpose, what keeps you moving, what keeps you going. And that helps
because
with
if you don't know what that is, then it's going to be hard to keep a positive mindset, isn't it?
That's right.
So we need to get on track with what we want, and if we don't know what we want, how do we figure that out?
You got to sit down and strategize.
Yeah.
And I encourage strategy with yourself, but then also harnessing with others as well that maybe know you to help you better understand what's best for you.
Now, this is interesting because you and I both pivoted, and you stayed in your industry.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I totally flip-flopped and went a totally different direction. So just because somebody has 20 years in banking doesn't mean that that's what their passion is. That's true. But it is your passion, and I can tell that just by the conversations that you and I have had, and sitting with you here today. And I am passionate about what I'm doing. Yeah. And I was passionate about what I was doing, but so if somebody just sits down and just writes down and does some deep soul searching about what they're passionate about, then that will help give them the direction toward that. And you're right. That is the very first step in keeping a positive mindset. because I know people who have been in limbo this year, not knowing where they're going to go or what they're going to do, and they have a hard time staying positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it too, Linda, for what you've done and what can be achievable as well is writing that list and writing down how those strengths that you carry are transferable.
True.
Right? So
True.
maybe I've led teams my entire life. Oh, I could go maybe run a franchise if I wanted to, right?
Oh, you could just do about anything, I think,
yeah.
Jennifer.
Thank you, and thank you so much. But
Yeah.
so it kind of puts that into perspective of okay, anything you put your mind to, and some of those skill sets are transferable.
So let's talk about the business that you started, and we'll get back to the book.
Yeah.
So the business, so you were in banking for 20 plus years, right? And so you started a new company. It's not a bank.
Nope.
What is it?
It's a finance company.
Okay.
So the finance company, what we do, we work with clients, anything from commercial real estate to owner-occupied real estate that are looking to seek debt. And we shop the best rate, term, and structure in the marketplace.
I never want to seek debt. What are you talking about?
There's things such as good debt. There's healthy on the balance sheet.
Okay.
So your assets.
See, you're a left brain and I'm a right brain. Here, we can be a great
creative.
match.
Yes, we can, very creatively. So it could be multiple things. So a lot of times we notice that business owners get turned down from a bank.
Right.
And that can really harness and really be detrimental to their own ego, thinking, okay, they're non-bankable.
Right.
But a lot of times that's not the case.
Okay.
A lot of times it may just be the bank that they went to doesn't have the
Right.
appetite, or there's something somewhere else that individual can be placed. So that's a lot of the work that we do today.
All right. So are you working with VCs, venture capitalists? Is that
Venture
what you're doing?
capitalists, private equity firms, individual private investors as well.
So you have many options when somebody comes to you. It's
Yep.
not just dead set
That's
on
correct.
this is it, and if you don't fit the mold,
That's right.
goodbye.
That's right. So we'll continue to shop it around to a couple of different areas, see what that feedback is, and we bring that back to our client. If there's an option or two for them, that's what we'll provide to them.
Interesting. How did you come up with this idea to go in? Is that something that you were doing while you were in the banking industry?
No, I just kind of stepped back and realized that every bank is unique and different.
Right.
And my skill set was broad, from large complex deals to smaller, startup loans to angel investors, and I have a lot of those resources. So let me
Right.
just pull them together and start to build a team around that as well. And
So you have a team of people.
I have a team of people as well.
All right, so we're going to do some Throwback Thursdays,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
So you got started in the banking industry. What was your first job in the banking industry?
I was a teller.
You were a teller.
Yep.
And now you own your own damn company.
Yep. Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
I mean, come on, people. It doesn't matter where you start. You can be, if you want to. Not everybody wants to be an independent business owner, and that's okay.
That's okay.
But you can start out as a teller. You can start out as the janitor. I have heard stories, I've read stories about people who were a janitor in a building and worked their way
Yeah.
up to the C-suite.
Yeah.
And so it can be done. So you started out as a teller, and then, I mean, you just caught on. You knew that you were a left brain person, and
Yeah, I mean, I just, took on a leadership role pretty quickly from that position, and then the next opportunity came up.
they spotted a
and
gem.
They started a gem, and I took on a region, and I ran half the state, and, in that journey.
Which state?
Florida.
Oh,
The
Florida,
state of
okay.
Florida.
Wow.
Took some risk at some time.
You're so young.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing that you had all that accomplishment, you
Yeah.
know, and all that responsibility
Yeah.
at a young age, because, man,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I mean, did you ever just swirl your head around and say, how did I get here? Or you just did it?
I
It was
think
just like,
I don't think there were moments where I really looked back until I wrote the book. And when I
Oh.
wrote the book, it was a wake up call to say,
Yeah.
to your point,
let's get back to the
I
book.
moved to Chicago, I moved to Michigan, and I was, wow. Like, that was the look back for me, to say, wow, I did all that. And no, I never really took time to look back until I wrote the book.
Isn't it? I mean, and this says a lot about writing a book. And I don't know about you, but I've never been one to journal. I've heard it's so good for you.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I understand
Me
the
too.
value in it. But I had the same feeling when I started writing. I mean, I was practically crying every page. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
And there's so many things that come out, and I don't know if I want to go through that every day.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, if I was journaling, I don't know if I want to relive every single day, every week, every month, every year. But writing the book, and I do recommend that anybody out there, if you don't want to write a book, go ahead and journal. You know,
Yeah.
get start, because you do start to understand your worth and your
Yes.
value.
Yep. You
And
do.
we were talking a little bit about that earlier.
Yep.
And I'm going to let you talk about that because you have, I think you
Yeah.
have some good things to say about it. But what I wanted to say was, I remember when I was writing the book and somebody asked me, why am I writing the book? And I'm like, you know what? I said, if I can help only one person by writing this and putting these words
Yep.
down on paper, and guess who that one person has already been?
Yourself.
Yeah,
'Cause you were the best investment.
I've already helped one person, and that was was my only goal.
Yeah.
And so whatever else comes out of it is cream, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So
amazing.
it has helped me, even though I'm only halfway done with it. But I am going to finish it. I don't know if I finish it by the end of the year, but it's going to be really close to the end of the year. I plan. Yeah.
That's great.
So let's talk about not only creating, but knowing your worth and knowing your self value.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a there's a chapter in there that I talk about knowing your worth, your personal worth, and your business worth. So negotiating as well. So especially for women, and I bring that up because I think at times women may not have been taught the negotiation skills to
I'm
negotiate on
so
their own
guilty.
behalf to say
I
how
think
much
I'm one
are
of
you
the
worth.
worst negotiator.
So getting better at negotiating and realizing when you have an offer letter from a company, are you looking at it? Are you taking time? Is there a relocation that's happening in the position? Are you asking for relocation expenses to be reimbursed for you? Is the base salary exactly where it should be? What's the commission structure? And I think what I've learned being in the industry and going through so many interviews through my career is that men were always standing up for themselves and saying they had a family to take care of and they needed more money and they wanted a bigger sign-on bonus and they knew what their value was. But sometimes when I had women that I would interview, they would shy down a little bit and say, okay, and okay. And that just saves the company money.
Right.
So
Right.
learning that and knowing that skill, I did put that in the book as well, of know your worth.
So let's talk about that for a second too, because now we're in kind of different times.
Yeah.
So negotiating your worth may not be as easy as it was a year ago today. How has that shifted? How is it affecting not just women? I think it's across the board. But how can we go in and with our worth and with our value and negotiate for now and the future? I mean, can we put a 30, 60, 90 day come back and let's revisit?
Great point. Absolutely. There's no reason why you couldn't ask for a 90-day review to be taken place and in that time ask for negotiation if it's a performance-based plan that you're on or something along those lines.
You know what I've witnessed not just this year, this is going back, but I've witnessed a lot of companies missing their 90-day review. And oh well, and 2 months later, and then it's like a moot point for the employer, but for the employee, they were looking forward to that 90-day review because that's usually their first raise. That's their first checkpoint, and okay, are we on track?
Right.
How does that happen, and what is the best way to handle something like that?
Yeah, I think in a situation like that, you have to be your best advocate. So going to your leader and bringing up the fact that you know that the 90 day is coming up and you're preparing, anything that I need to be prepared for as I'm preparing. Is there any,
Right.
you know, script that I need to prepare on, any questions,
Yeah.
get your goals ready. So letting your leader know that you're ready for it and pointing that out
Okay.
sometimes can be helpful too.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the book a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
So knowing your worth, what else do we touch on in the book?
So I have Knowing Your Worth in there, and then I have some great tips. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about the tips.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what kind of tips do you have?
So some of the tips that I put in there, when we talk about risk taking. So risk taking. So what kind of you know, risk taking for women and for men as well. But I used the launch to say be willing to take risk and elevated risk. So for me, I had sole custody of my daughter throughout my career.
Yeah.
So it was a big risk for me to leave the state of Florida, go to Chicago, and leave
that's a big
Chicago, move to Michigan, leave Michigan, and come back to Florida to run.
And took your daughter with
I
you
took
everywhere.
my daughter with me everywhere.
Single mom?
Single mom. Yes.
Wow.
Single mom in it.
That's huge.
Yes. So I encourage others to take risk and look at how that can help better build you. You know, I look at how when I moved to Chicago, I got rid of my vehicle and I learned public transportation, but I have some of the best stories.
Something people from Tampa are familiar with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Public transportation.
Absolutely. What is that? Oh, I took the red line, and yeah, I knew how to shovel snow, and I really had to reharness who I was and my own skill sets in life. So built me a lot stronger, and my daughter too, right? So she, you know, went to some great school of the arts and in Lincoln Park, Chicago, and it was, you know, for her,
That must have been a great experience.
It was an amazing experience. Absolutely, it was.
I'm going to ask you what might be a really difficult question.
Okay.
And I promised you I wasn't going to ask you anything you didn't know the answer to. So you might have to think about this for a minute, and we might have to come back to it. But here's the question. Drum roll. Have you ever made any mistakes? Have you ever made a decision that you thought was the right decision, and then you look back 6 months later, or maybe a year later, or maybe when you're writing your book and you're like, oh, God, I really messed that up? Anything that you like to share? If you don't want to share it, that's okay. You can just say yes and we can move on.
I think it could be personal or business here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think along the way, there's all kinds of leadership lessons that I've learned. And absolutely, I've made mistakes. You know, none of us are perfect human beings. You know, it could have been, maybe I was overly generous to, you know, a certain team at a certain period in my career. And looking back, I'm like, wow, I was maybe I was over generous in how I, you know, handled the group versus how I would handle the group today.
Right.
So,
do you think it was because you were in the learning stages and you're a woman and we're softies and we're known to be softies and now you have learned?
Yeah, to and build a tougher
I'm
core.
a softie too.
Yeah, build a tougher core.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's some of the...
And make business decisions.
Business decisions.
It's not,
first,
don't
off
take it
emotion.
personal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So, tied in with that, I understand what you learned from it, but how can we take that into a teaching lesson for the viewers today? How do you translate that into how they can get off of that, you know, line of thinking?
So I think sometimes you need to step back a little bit.
Okay.
You know, when making a business decision, remove some of the emotion. Yeah, there's emotion involved in a lot of things. You know, women or men making decisions. You know, we are human, and you manage people that are human as well. But really step back and look at what's best for the business and what's best for you.
And I think that's true. Looking at the bottom line, what is best for the business, and I do believe there are teaching moments that you don't have to fire somebody just because they made a mistake. I remember there was this one time, and early on in my trade show career, I was one of the first trade shows that I was managing, and I forgot to put chairs on the work order.
Okay.
And so it sounds like a menial thing,
Yeah.
but you know, every trade show was different. And I get to the event, everything is beautiful. It's not opening until the next day. And I'm doing the walkthrough with the meeting planner, and the meeting planner says, everything looks great, it looks beautiful, your team is wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda. You've done a great job. By the way, when are you going to put the chairs out? I looked around, and I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
And I had just cut the crew.
Wow.
I just cut the crew, and they were all going back home or back to the warehouse or wherever they were going. I didn't know
didn't
where they
know.
were going. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, that's my fault. I said, they should be out now.
Yeah.
And thank goodness they weren't going to be out until it wasn't opening till the next day. And so I called the deco supervisor, not answering his phone.
Wow.
I drove back to the warehouse, and I went in there, and I told them, they were there, and I said, I forgot, I messed up.
Yeah.
I forgot to put you, no problem. The next call was to my boss, who
Yeah.
hired me, and I said, Michael, I said, I screwed up. He said, I know. They had already called him.
Wow.
They had already called him.
Called him.
And he said, Linda, is it
ahead.
getting taken care of? And I said, yes,
Yeah.
sir. He said, don't worry about it. Monday morning, that was over the weekend. Monday morning, I am walking up the steps with my head down, and he's on the front steps waiting for me. And he's got his arms like this. And I said, I am so sorry. I said, am I fired? And he said, why would I
Why?
fire you?
Yeah.
He said, why would I fire you for making a mistake? He said, are you ever going to do that again? He said, you just taught yourself the best lesson,
Yeah.
you know?
The
And so
experience.
yes, people are going to make mistakes. Yes, we can be a softie,
Yeah.
or we can turn it into a teaching lesson.
Coachable moment.
A coachable moment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly. I love it.
Love it.
I love it. So we're going to get back to the book.
Okay.
Because I want people to read this book.
Yes.
I can't wait to read the book. I
Yes.
need to read this book.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love
the
it.
name of the book, again,
You're the best investment.
You're the Best. Oh, and I want to talk to you about this cover.
Yeah.
Is that you?
No, that's not me.
Okay.
It's a good look-alike, though.
It is a great look-alike. I thought for sure it was you. And is this inside an airplane? What the heck?
Yeah, that's inside of a private jet.
And do you know this person?
No,
Oh, you don't?
no.
Okay.
The book,
pretty cool.
The publishing group picked that out.
I love it. Well, they're a great publisher.
Yes.
Now Publishing, right?
Now Publishing.
How
Great
can people find your book?
You'rebestinvestment.com.
All right.
Yep.
You're the bestinvestment.com.
Yep.
Is it you're the bestinvestmentbook.com? No.
You're the best investment.
You're the bestinvestment.com.
Yep.
I love it. I can't wait to read the book.
Yes, thank
Any
you.
last thing we'd like to leave with the viewers?
No, just thank you for your time and for
Yes.
listening, and check out my book again, you'rebestinvestment.com.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Jennifer. It's been
Thank
so
you.
much fun. Thank you, everyone. Women have needs too. Right now, it's time for someone to take a risk. Maybe it's you. Have a great day, and see you soon.